If you're still manually adding receipts to expense reports, you're wasting hours of valuable time, not to mention the amount of potential mistakes that could happen. In this video, I'm going to show you how I automated the entire process of expense tracking for a fictitious legal firm. So there's no more messy inboxes, no more missing receipts, and no more late nights for your accounting team. We'll be using Make.com, Airtable, and AI to create the system that reads receipts, extracts key data, and automatically adds it to the expense reports without having to write a single line of code. So let's dive in. So if you're new to the channel, my name is Matt Paiva. I build AI solutions for businesses, especially on the sales and marketing side of things. And I actually wanted to start this video by giving you a live demo of how this system works. So what you're seeing on my screen is a very simple version of the expense tracking report for Pearson Spector Litt, the fictitious legal firm in the show Suits. And you can see here that we have 3 entries with 3 different dates, 3 different amounts, and 3 different people that are logging these expenses manually. So essentially the workflow that I imagine is that Harvey goes out on a dinner with Gillis Industries. He takes a photo of his receipts and he manually sends it to the accounting team via email. The accounting team goes ahead and reads that receipt and adds this information over here manually. Now you can imagine that that takes a lot of time. So we are simplifying this by using this scenario over here in Make.com, which is available for free in the link down below if you want to get access to all of my free AI templates. So let me show you exactly how this process works. You guys can see that I'm writing an email to my email over here. And essentially we want to send an email to the accounting team, but since I don't have anything specific like that set up, we're going to send an email to matt@paivasolutions.com. And we're going to select the subject line as dinner with Folsom Foods. And on the composed email, I'm going to open my camera and take a photo directly of this receipt over here. Now we're going to select use photo and we're going to send this automatically. Now, once we send this, we just need to turn on our scenario and run once and see the magic happen. And if we go over to our expense report, we'll see that our expense was automatically added over here to the expense report with the correct date, the correct amount. It knows that I was the one who sent it. It knows that it's for Folsom Foods, and it also has the receipt attached over here. Now, on top of that, we also send an email back to the person who submitted that receipt saying that their expense was added successfully to the expense report. So if you want to know how to build this, just watch the video until the end. Okay, so let's open Airtable and start building our database for these expense tracking. What you guys are seeing on the screen over here is my Airtable database, and we're actually going to click on start from scratch. This is how I prefer to start these builds, especially when we're going from zero. One really good thing that you can do when you are building these things is that you can pretty much import any existing database that you have into your Airtable database. So it will already create a bunch of the fields that you need for your thing. So let's say you have a Google Sheets in place, you can import that Google Sheets in here. And how do you actually import it? You just click over here on add and import, choose the type of file that you want to import, and then you bring it over. For our purposes, we are not going to do that. In fact, we're going to delete all of the fields that we have here first, and we're going to start from absolute zero. Okay, now that we've deleted everything, let's start by naming our first field. This I'm gonna call receipt or expense ID, actually, expense ID. We're going to click on auto number. This is essentially going to create a new number for every single entry that we have over here. As you guys can see, we have the first 3 right away. Another thing that we're going to need is a date field. For this date field, we are going to use the US format over here with a month, date, and time. And I'm going to select to default to the current date, even though this is optional. This date field will be essentially the date that the expense was created. So let's say like I had a dinner on Friday, but I only logged it on Monday. This will be Friday. Then we're going to look for a currency thing over here. We're going to select a currency, and this is going to be the amount of the expense. Now we're going to select the type of expense with a single select. This is going to be type of expense. And for the type of expenses, we can have many different types of expenses. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to put as meals. Another one I'll select as travel. And last but not least, we are going to select accommodation, assuming that this team is going to be like a team that travels to meet clients as well. So the next 2 fields that we're going to create are going to be related to the clients and the employees that we are creating these expenses for. We can do this in 2 different ways. We can either do a linked record over here or a single select. This would be a little bit easier and makes it a little bit more sense if you have a smaller team. So let's go with single select for employee. And for the other one, for clients, we're actually going to go with linked record. And you see that when I click on linked record, nothing pops up. So here we are going to create a new table and we're going to select clients. This is just so I can show you both ways that this could work, but just keep this in mind for the future. And last but not least, our last column will be an attachment. And this is where we're going to attach the receipt of the expense that we are talking about. Actually, I'm going to add one more. I'm going to add a notes, which is going to be a single line text, just in case we need to contextualize any expenses over here. Okay, so we have pretty much the skeleton set up. We have the employees. I also added a few employees over here, and these are just characters from the show Suits. We have Harvey, Mike, Louis, and Donna Paulson. And, you know, to keep the theme going over here, we added 3 clients over here from the show as well. This row over here, or this column over here, we can hide. We're not necessarily going to need this over here. This is just to keep us on track. So for example, if Harvey logged a dinner with Folsom Foods the other day, we would do something along these lines. Let's say that they logged this dinner on April, let's say it was yesterday, April 24th, and for an amount of $100. It would be a meal expense, and we would attach the receipt over here. Now you see how just doing that process manually takes a little bit of time just to input all of that. Plus we would need to have the receipt, read the receipt, figure out who we're doing this for, who sent the receipt, and add all of this information over here. So we don't want our accounting team to do this manual process every single time that they receive a receipt. So why don't we go over to make.com to set up a scenario that will use AI to read a receipt, understand who's sending that receipt, and create all of this for us. In make.com, we're going to create a new scenario and select Gmail as a first step. We're going to click on Watch Gmail. Here, you just need to click on your connection and select the right email that you're reading. One thing that's good to do in these types of scenarios is that if you have any labels on your Gmail, you can actually filter by the labels that you get over here. So let's say someone manually attaches a label whenever they receive a receipt. You can have a label over here, and the easiest way to go about it is just to select that inbox specifically. This email that we're using doesn't have any specific label, so we're just going to click on inbox and click on simple filter and all emails. We're going to read one email at a time, and this is our first step. So once you have your Gmail set up, the next thing you want to do is to click on Analyze Images when you look for a new module. So just search it up, click on OpenAI, and find this Analyze Images Vision module over here. And the way you set it up is obviously you're going to need a prompt. But first of all, let's select how we're going to get the image over here. The thing that you want at the top is not the image URL. You want the image file, and then the file, we want to map it. Now, the thing that you're going to map in the Gmail module is the following. You're going to click on attachments, and here you're going to click on data. Once you click on data, this will actually import all the data of this file into the GPT module, and this will allow the GPT to read the image the way it's supposed to. Now for our prompt, I had a prompt set up from before that I'm actually going to show you guys what it is. Essentially here we're saying that this tool will analyze and extract text from a receipt image and only extract the date of the expense and the total amount paid. Now, after this, I just outlined a 3-step process on how to go about this, essentially outlining what it needs to look for. The examples that I'm going to use for this video are examples from receipts that I had from when I was in Paris. So all of these receipts are in French. That's why we have these notes in the prompt over here that the receipt might be in English or in French. For your use cases, if you only work locally and you have clients locally, you don't have to worry about that in this scenario. I just decided to be very explicit with my prompt over here. Some key things to include in your prompt though is to let the system know that it needs to look for the total amount, that's usually the bigger number at the bottom, and to also look for the specific date that the receipt was generated. In this scenario, since I got these receipts in France, the format of the date is actually day, month, year instead of month, date, year. So that's why we are adapting that over here as well. So this is going to be our first prompt over here, and I actually sent a receipt in our GPT or in my email a couple of minutes ago, so we can test as we go. So I'm just going to select this last email sent by me, and we are going to run once to see if we get any errors. I actually forgot to select the model at the very bottom over here. Very silly, but here we go. We're going to go with 4.0 mini and run it again. Let's check the result, and we have the correct numbers over here. Date of the expense, April 19th, and total amount paid, 103 euros. That's exactly what I have on the receipt over here. I'll show you guys a picture of it later. Okay, so we've established that this step is working properly. The next step that we're going to use is also an AI step, a GPT chat completion step. And essentially what I'm going to instruct over here is for us to use the output from the previous step together with the contents of the email to determine the other factors over here. So now we have, in this example, we have the date and the amount. So we have the first two columns. Now we need to establish what are the other three columns, right? What's the type of the expense? Who is the employee that did this expense? And who is the client for this expense? Also at the very end, we're going to add the receipt over here as well. So in terms of model, I'm going to use the GPT-4o mini. And we're going to start with the system prompt over here that I had already written down. Essentially, I'm not even including a role here. I'm including two main portions, the task and the SOP. The task, we're outlining that we want a output in JSON, so we can then parse through that information and select each element into the specific cell in Airtable later down the line. Okay, so once we have this system prompt over here, we can go ahead and click on user. And from here on out, I'm going to put the email subject line, which is going to be this one over here. Then we're going to have email content. And in email content, I'm going to select the text content. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of input from the image. And last but not least, we could select also the sender name, which should be a good idea. So sender name, I'm going to select over here. And last but not least, we are going to select image analysis. Well, we're going to write image analysis, which is going to be the output from our previous step. And here we just need to click on content, and this should be it. Like, as you guys can see, we also have an image input type over here, meaning that we can use a completion step to include an image over here as well. Now, I don't want to do it like this because, like I said before, I want to split the task into two, but it is also an option for you to merge these two tasks into one big prompt and let it run on its own. So the next thing that we need to set up is a JSON parser. This is, if you type JSON, click on parse JSON. You don't need to create a data structure. You just need to click on the output of the previous step. And over here, we should be able to run this again to see if the next two steps are working properly. Run anyway. It's going to give you a little note because the last step is a JSON parser. And I'm going to save anyway as well because we need to save as we go. There we go. Let's see if our tests ran correctly. We have client, Folsom Foods, employee, Matt Paiva, date, correct date, total amount this, and the type of expense, meal. Everything correct as it's supposed to be. Okay, so now we need to import all of this information into Airtable. And in order to do that, we're going to have to do an in-between step to download our receipt first. And we're going to use a Google Drive module over here that is upload a file. Now, when you are doing this upload a file into Google Drive, you need to have the Google Drive folder set up already. So this is the one that I set up. This is just a folder called expense tracking. And in order for this to work, it needs to be, anyone can be able to access it. You need to allow access for anyone with the link, but don't worry, your receipts are not going to be here for any period of time. Actually, as soon as they come in and we download them into Airtable, they're going to be immediately deleted. So no one will actually get access to these receipts. Your information won't be publicly available for everyone out there. Don't worry about it. Okay, so now that you have your folder set up, go over here to make.com again, and we're going to select from a list. You're going to look for that folder in either your drive or in a different drive that you set up. And here we're going to map the file. We're going to select all this information coming in from Gmail. Here, the file name, I'm not going to go too fancy about it. I'm just going to select the name in the Gmail. And the data, you need to do the same thing of selecting the data from this point forward. Now, the next step is for you to use Google Drive again and click download a file. And here, we're going to enter the file ID manually. We're going to map it out to this file ID. And this will allow us to get access to the file that we need. So after this, we should be good to create a record in Airtable. And we're going to select Airtable, click on create a record, and you need to have your Airtable connection set up over here. Select the base. Our base is the expense tracking base. And the table that we're going to use is expenses. As soon as you click on expenses, you'll be able to see all of the columns that you have. And then here is just a matter of mapping out these columns to the JSON output over here. So date, we click on date, amount, total amount, type of expense, meal, employee, client. Here we're going to also map, and we're going to click on client Folsom Foods, and the receipt, we're going to select receipt, file URL, and from here, we're going to look for a specific output. We're going to look for the download. We're using, by the way, the download a file, and we're going to select the web content link. File name, here you can select whatever file name you want. If you want to make a combination of like the date and the name of the, like if you want to do date and the name of the client, that can be a file name, but this actually doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to select the name of the file from before. All right, so since we have everything set up over here, the last step that we want to do is the step of deleting the file. So we're going to look for delete a file or folder, click on that, and then we're going to select the file ID from before. So we use this download a file step and these two steps as just an intermediary step, and nobody can actually access your data. Since everything is done, we're just gonna click on save and auto align, and we're going to run a test. Now this test was an email that I sent to myself. It has my name. So for full context, I added my name over here in the list of employees so we can actually track everything, and we'll be able to see this being added over here. Quick context as well. This is the folder that we're using, and I'll show you how when we run this, nothing will be saved. And we're gonna click on the last email that I sent, go back to the Airtable database, and we're just gonna watch and see our entry automatically update over here. And there we go, we have our entry over here. The correct date, April 19th, 2025, correct amount, meal, my name, Folsom Foods, and the receipt attached over here. As a quick disclaimer, we're gonna go back to this folder over here and load it again. We'll see that there's nothing in here, meaning that your receipts are not gonna be shared with everyone and you don't have to worry about it. And our automation ran successfully. So now your team doesn't have to waste time manually adding these entries every time over here in your Airtable database. And one thing, just to make sure that our information is complete for everyone, that I want to include is another Gmail step. We're actually going to send a Gmail or send an email, right? I don't know why I'd send a Gmail to the person who uploaded the receipt. So here, I was the one who uploaded the receipt. So we're gonna go back and map it to myself. We're gonna select the subject line will be your expense was added successfully. And then in our email content, we can include the expense ID, the date, the amount, the type of expense, employee, and the client as well. So this will essentially create a confirmation email that our thing was added successfully. And we're gonna run a test as well for myself. There we go. Here is the email. Your expense was added successfully, expense ID number 9. And then it just gives us all the information that we might need over here. The only key difference is that the client is going to come out as an ID over here because we are using a linked record instead of a drop-down menu. So that's one of the key differences that happens as well. You can pull the information for the client name as well, but since it's just a bonus step at the very end, I'm not gonna go through this process in this video, but if you do want me to do it for you, just reach out and I'll do it for you as well. So now you've seen how we took a slow manual process and turned it into a fully automated AI system, ultimately saving your team hundreds of hours at the end of every month and reducing the amount of potential errors that could have happened along the way. If you want to set up AI systems like these to take your business to the next level, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can shoot me an email or book a call for free down in the link in the description, and we can start a conversation to see if we are a good fit to work together. And if you want to keep building smarter systems for your business, you can watch this video that's popping up right here. There you're gonna learn how to set up an automated newsletter process. And if that's something that you already have in place, you can watch the video that's popping up over here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.